It was an offseason that we will all remember. And in the final season of the Pac-12 as we know it, comes Season 3 of The It Factory. It will be full of players that are on preseason watch lists, will be on future NFL draft lists. As always, we will take the helmet off of the top players on the West Coast and tap into who they are and why they stand out. I'm Yogi Roth, and welcome back to The It Factory. Welcome back, or welcome to The It Factory. I am your host, Yogi Roth, and today we talk to a man who many of you know. He's been around for quite some time, and he's an elite player within the Pac-12 on the Palouse. Yes, we go there this week. We punch up there and bring in Brennan Jackson, the star edge rusher. Been around for a while, Brennan. We finally get you on this show. Thank you for taking the time.
Thank you for having me. I'm super excited.
Totally. So you've got a long path, and you know, I thought we'd have some fun to start this off. So I brought my glasses that I rock because I heard about freshman year. Can you tell us a story about the glasses you rolled? Were they blue light like these? Like, were they just hipster? What was it as a freshman that I've heard about?
Look, I wish I had the excuse that they were blue light glasses. I wish I could fall back on that, but they weren't. Going to college, I was like, I can be a new me, new person. You know, high school's different. That's in California. I'm going to Washington. Let me do something new. Let me spice up the look. So I went and got some gold Ray-Ban glasses, and I was going to get prescriptions for them. I ended up having perfect eyesight, so I didn't need them. But I just kept them with the lenses that came from the store. And I was found out pretty quickly when I didn't wear them frequently enough. So yeah, pretty embarrassing stuff.
Hey man, we've all had our moments. I wanted to start there, not to poke fun at you, but just to have light of like you've transformed, right? Like from freshman year rocking the Ray-Bans that weren't prescribed to here we are. You've been around for 6 years at this university, and I know you've set some goals for you there that we're going to get into, but big picture, when you just try to zoom out a little bit, you know, if you imagine you're on a plane looking down on the Palouse right now, what would you see in the form that Brennan Jackson has become over the course of the last 6 years?
I think when I came to Pullman, I really was a teenager, a kid coming out of high school, and just to see how the Palouse has shaped me into the man I am today, I've kind of come out of my shell a lot. Like you said, we poke fun at it now, but just to see how I can look back on the youth and now how I am today and how I operate and the maturity and the people I've met and the connections I've made and all the hardships we've gone through. I mean, the Palouse is a special, special place, and we've seen it from game day in 2018 with Gardner Minshew beating Oregon to, now in 2023 we just beat Wisconsin, the Palouse packed again. It's a special place with so many memories, and I'm so thankful for the opportunity that Mike Leach gave me back in 2018 to be here. And if I could look down, I'd just see a special place.
What was that home visit like with Mike Leach?
I don't think we talked about football once, honestly. I remember, so the first thing we did, my dad knew that Mike Leach hated candy corn. So the first thing my dad did was give him a handful of candy corn. He's like, "Oh, Coach, I know you love this stuff." And he was like, what is this? And so that was great, started out. And we just sat on the couch and we're talking about everything but football. And all those stories rang true. I mean, that man just... the stories he had and the way his mind operated was so different from anyone I've ever met before. And I just knew from there on, I was like, this is a man I can get behind and play football for because he gets it. And it was an amazing home visit. I ended up committing one on my official visit, and it was incredible place.
How would you describe, you the player when you came in? Because you weren't a five-star player that was projected to be an all-conference player at 17, 18 years old.
Yeah, that was my high school career as well. I always had guys who, my friends growing up, they were always a little bit better than me, a little bit projected better than me, ended up being ranking higher than me. And, I was okay with that. I didn't need the spotlight early on. I just wanted to work in the shadows and do my job. And I just knew that if I kept working and doing everything I could, doing all the right things, that eventually my time would come, and to have that patience. And especially when I got here, I had to be very patient early on, with 2 injuries back to back. So it wasn't like I came here and was starting immediately. It was a lot of hardship. And for me, I was able to grow from that and take a step away from football and who am I? Who am I without this game? And I think having that early on in my career made it to where now it's easy. I'm having fun. Football is a game to have fun with, and you shouldn't make your entire identity off the game of football.
Okay, copy that and send it to every recruit in the nation, because especially now, as you know, that is harder than ever before. So let's go back to that. Like, what was your process like of accepting that your identity wasn't football? Like, how did you even come to that? Because I can't imagine it being easy.
Yeah, I mean, you come in with freshmen and you're doing the freshman workouts and it's hard and you're it's that period of where you're transitioning from high school athlete to a college athlete. And for me, it gave me a lot of realization. Like, this is a game that I'm gonna have to dedicate everything to. It's not like in high school where you could show up for 2 hours and be good for game day. It's a day in, day out process. And then when that was taken away from me, all that time freshman year while I was out of the classroom of football, I was basically a student at that point, and I had to find out what my passions were, because football is going to end for everybody someday. And for me, I didn't know what my journey would be after that. You know, ACL tears are hard injuries to come back from, but I took a step back and I was like, well, what do I find a lot of joy in? And I realized, like, just the grind of football, the grind of working out, I found a passion in it. And then for me, it was also just talking, like the whole meeting people, the connections you make with football. I was able to find a real passion for that, and I came out of my shell a lot. As I've done interviews over the years, I've become more confident in who I am and what I'm portraying out there. And so having that early on growth rather than immediately starting out, because you kind of lose out in the development. When you start early on, you kind of miss out on, well, what am I when this game ends? And so that for me was transformative for my character, for my personality, and I thank God for putting me in that position early on in my career to really humble me.
Do you think this is true? Every college athlete as a freshman is going to lay in their dorm room at some point in training camp, look up to the ceiling and say, what am I doing here? And have thoughts about leaving?
Absolutely. I mean, that reigns true with almost every single college athlete. It's tough. It's not easy. And I think one of my favorite phrases, and I have to shout out RJ for this one too, it's like living the dream, but that is the dream. Like, the dream is everything that encapsulates football or your sport. It's the hard times, it's the fun times, it's the long nights, early mornings, it's everything. That's the dream, right? And so, of course, the dream's gonna have times where you look up at the ceiling like, man, like, gosh, I wanna stay up and do this. I wanna, wake up past 7 o'clock when the sun's out. But at the end of the day, like, all that stuff, when you look back on it, was the dream. And that's what we all chase from a kid. It's that having that responsibility, having that name on the front of your jersey, the team you're representing, and all the people you meet, all the brothers you make, that is the dream. And so I think having that is just another component of it.
Yeah, I asked that because I had the same one. Like every one of your teammates and my teammates and every athlete watching or listening to this now, you have that moment. And for me, I can remember really calling home and being like, I'm challenged right now. Like, I was a walk-on. I wasn't even on scholarship yet. And for you, you had an ACL, then you broke your foot. When you called home, I'm curious what the dialogue was like, and were you looking for maybe your mom or someone in your family to give you the pass to say, yeah, you can quit? And if so, what happened?
Yeah, I mean, it was my mom. It was definitely my mother. She's been my rock throughout my entire football career, and I give so much thanks to her and what she sacrificed on her own to get me to this point. And that conversation was, it was a phone call. I was walking back from the facility. Well, I was scootering back. I'm sorry, because I had a broken foot at the time, and it was snowing, and I was cold, and I was sitting on the side of the road by my apartment, and I was like, Mom, I don't know if I can do this anymore. Like, I don't think I can do this anymore. And she was like, stop. There's not a can't do it. You can do anything you want, Brennan. It's will you or won't you. It's not a can't. I believe in you, and I know what you can do, and you can do anything. But it's will you do it or won't you do it? And you need to make that decision for yourself. And at that point, I was like, you're right. Will I do this or will I not do this? And so at that moment, I made a decision. I was like, I will do everything in my power to get back on that field and be the best version of myself I can be, give my best every single day. And so for a time being, that was working out at 3 a.m., working out again at 6. It was in the film room after everyone was out of meetings, watching over practice because I was in the training room during practice. And now I was okay with that because that was all I could control at that time. And I thank my mom so much for putting that perspective into it. That's not a can't, it's a will or won't you.
How do you navigate the idea of other people defining who you are? Because it happens, right? As a recruit, it happens for you as a player, it happens to all your teammates, it's happening to your team right now. Like, what is your modality of how to manage that?
I think everyone's going to have an opinion from the outside, and it's how you take that. Are you going to take that as truth, or are you going to understand that you know yourself best? And for me, it's always been the people closest to me, my position coaches, my teammates, my family. They know me best, so what they say about me, I hold a lot more value in. And I think that's a lot of athletes can learn from that, because there's so much noise on the outside that you're going to hear throughout your career. But understanding that the people you let in closest to you, the ones you have trust in, what they say about you is going to come in a different tone. It's going to come with a lot of things you can construct on, you can get better at. It's not just straight criticism. It's constructive criticism, things that you can work on. And for me, I've never taken any of that coaching as a negative. I think coaching is the best thing, or things they see in my game that they want me to get better at, because they see the potential in me that I may not see in myself just yet. Whereas people on the outside, they say things just based on what they see on film. They don't see you in practice. They don't see you in workouts. They don't see you in the training room every day. They don't know the real you outside the football building. So to let that have such a hold over you, that can be really detrimental to your own confidence.
When I was your age, and really since I was 13, I had this picture on my wall, and the quote was something along the lines of what I'll try to recite to you, which is, when you're not working, someone somewhere is. When the two of you meet, given fairly equal ability, he will win. And that was a driver for me for a long time. And as I got older, and now I'm in my 40s, I look back at that and I say, God, I put too much energy or weight on beating somebody else. Like, it's the quote I see on social media all the time of like, proving the haters wrong. And if you ever track me, I'm always following, especially like athletes in our league. I'll just respond, prove yourself right. And I wish somebody told me that when I was your age. How do you respond to that description, that quote, and how do you navigate like energy towards someone else and what they might be doing versus proving what I believe to be right about myself?
Yeah, I think for me, I've always looked at it as I want to prove that I'm the hardest worker, right? For me, that's the challenge I have, is because it's so easy to get complacent with where you are in life and to take the easy road. And for me, I've always wanted to do as much as I can possibly to better myself, and that's in any realm, right? I've never believed in resting in the middle in life. It's a constant self-improvement in every single facet, right? Whether it becomes public speaking, in the classroom, in football, just anything. Like I crave just personal growth in that matter. And I think you're absolutely right. A lot of times we get transfixed on a competition or comparing ourselves to somebody else. But for me, I compare myself to who I was an hour ago, 24 hours ago, a week ago. Like, how have I grown from that point? And it may be something so minute, like 0.01%. But that's 0.01% I got better. And that makes me happy, because I know that all the work I'm putting in any realm is I'm growing. I'm getting better. And so as I've gone these 6 years and just the little micro growths I've had over the past 6 years, I'm looking at a picture that's so much different, so much more full, bright than what I was when I first got here. And I think you're absolutely correct. Like, we should always be focused on how we can better ourselves, and don't compare ourselves to what everyone else is doing, because it's only about us at the end of the day. Like, how are we transforming our lives? How are we growing? How are we doing everything we can in our passions and the things we care about? How are we getting better in those areas? Because one day that stuff we may not be able to do anymore. So it's like just taking the time we have while those things are still out there and able to be done, like give 110% to that, because you owe it to yourself.
Yeah, and it's not easy. I think that's something else. The reason I ask you that is, I spent a decent amount of time around high performance psychology, and the guy, my go-to guy, we always talk about confidence, where it comes from. And he would say that, while some confidence can come from prior experiences or what other people may tell you, it truly comes down to your own self-talk and what you're saying to yourself. I say that because I came across a quote from you that I want to read. That is, quote, "When I look in the mirror, it's like I'm in love with the person that I see. It's not just how I look, but it's how I feel on the inside and where I put my energy towards." I think that is a really powerful, thoughtful statement. So, Brendan, when you looked in the mirror before that quote was made, what did you see? And when you look in the mirror now, what is it that you see?
Back then, back then when I looked in the mirror, I used to think, like, not necessarily what are you doing, but like, it really was a reality check. Where are you putting your energy towards, right? Because I think looking in the mirror doesn't have to always be a physical thing. It's you're looking inward. Like when you look into your eyes, do you see determination? Do you see complacency? Do you see drive, or do you see laziness? And I think before I made that quote, I'd see a lot of laziness, a lot of self-doubt, a lot of like woe is me kind of mindset. And I really wanted to get that out of my head. And so I would just constantly reflect every single day, like, well, what am I doing to get out of that? What am I doing to become more, assertive, driven, motivated? And it was self-motivation. At the end of the day, there's no one out on the outside that can motivate you more than you can motivate yourself. And so just the time I spent just improving myself and on all facets, and reading and putting my energy away from social media to reading about, self-improvement and like all that stuff I did, podcasts, moving away from mainstream media, all that stuff, it made me happier. Like it genuinely made me happier as a person. And I think that made it so much easier to play football and do everything I like, because I'm happy, right? I'm happy with how I'm doing internally, right? And I think that's the most powerful thing, is when you're happy internally, everything else, all the fog in front of you kind of dissipates. It's like, oh, okay, like here are all the solutions, all the problems I was having, right? It makes a lot more sense, a lot clearer. And I think when I said that quote, it was finally where I was seeing a clear picture of myself in the mirror. I was seeing exactly who I was and what I cared about.
College football is in an interesting place. What percentage of college football players are happy? And what do you think drives happiness? And what would your advice be to the young you or other players that are going to listen to this around the country that might be listening right now and saying, yeah, like I get people are asking for my autograph and are double tapping all my picks, but things aren't going great right now inside?
I mean, I would say percentage-wise, and I think it's a guess out there, but I would say probably around 50-50. Like it really isn't, like it's not a mass amount that are happening. I think the misconception is success creates happiness. I don't think that's true in any facet, right? I think the athletes that are the happiest are the ones that get up in the morning, are excited to do what they're doing. It's the get to over a got to mindset. And I really believe that's one of the best things Coach Dicker's talked about, is shifting your mindset from I have to do this to I get to do this. And I think the days, and it's not perfect for me every single day. I'm not out here always hooting and hollering ready to go. But I think the days where I wake up and I'm like, gosh, I get to play football today. I get to go to class today. I get to hang out with my friends today. I get to do that stuff. You really see yourself shift into an appreciative mindset. You're appreciative of all the blessings that are around you, right? And I think I had that before I was ever even playing, before I ever got recognized as an all Pac-12 player. And there's a lot of people who want to be playing collegiate sports, and you have to understand that it really is like a blessing to be able to do this, right? And I would say just not taking that for granted, like not worrying about statistics or what people say about you or where you're ranked or where you're going to go after these 4, 5, 6 years, right? I think a lot of athletes, like you said, who are labeled early on as going to be the next best thing, going here, all these expectations, it blinds all the things that are in front of them, like all the things they're able to do, right? And they become so transfixed on, I have to make this play, I have to make this read, I have to score this touchdown. And they don't do that. They don't see all the little things they did successfully. Like it's all about these statistics and numbers. And I think for me, even now, like I have a lot of expectations going to this final year, but I'm just having fun. I'm just playing football at the end of the day.
Yeah, I love that for you. You are one of those guys, and it's been reported, so we're not breaking any news here, but your DMs were filling up with other schools trying to get you. You chose to come back and play for Coach Dickert. I would imagine what you just said, and I loved it around happiness, like you can, in this era of college athletics, you can be lulled to other things because they might be brighter or flashier, but you went to substance and you went to what you had already grown and put time in and said, no, I'm gonna be a Coug. Like I want to be one of the greats of all time. How was that time for you? And what is it like playing and learning from Jake Dickert, your head coach?
Yeah, I mean, that whole time period was very different than what I was used to, because like in college football, back when I was watching with my dad and my family, like transferring wasn't really a thing. Back then it was very much like when you were at school, that was the school you're going to be at for 4 years. So I remember when I first committed here, me and my dad sat down with my mom and we were like you're committed. Like this is a commitment, right? There's no wavering from that, right? And obviously barring something crazy, it's like this is where I'm going to be going to school because I trusted the people that recruited me here and the school that I was going to. And during that time, it was a lot of, like you said, a lot of flashy stuff being thrown my way, a lot of numbers that, you know, I had never really seen before. But at the end of the day, I thought to myself, and this reigns true, I talked to my parents about this, is like, well, let's do pros and cons, right? Let's label this out. Let's make it very simple, very concrete, right? There's this stuff over here, right? Let's say NIL stuff, right? Change of scenery, right? But then you look at the pros, right, of staying in Pullman, right? It's connection, it's family, it's leadership, it's opportunity, it's like memories, it's all the things I've done here, all the people and all the, like, it's the Palouse, right? It's so special. And for me, it's like, I committed to be at this school. I committed to be a Washington State Cougar. And I really believe, like, if you were to cut me open, you'd see crimson and gray coming out of my blood veins. Like, I just feel like I've really grown up here. And I feel like the person I was when I stepped on this campus back in 2018 is vastly different than what I am now, but you can see all the growth. You can see every little step I took. And I'm forever grateful to this university. Like, one of my favorite things was after the Wisconsin game, like, people were like, thank you so much for staying. You don't know how much it means to me. I'm like, you have no idea how much it means to me that you guys want me here so badly. Like, to feel like I'm part of the family, that's the most amazing feeling for an athlete, is after a game, hearing that they're thankful for you being there, when realistically, like, all the thanks are to all the Cougs out there around the country, because they've made me feel like I'm part of a family for the rest of my life. And so in this whole transfer portal era and all this NIL, like, realize, like, these fans, this community that you're committing to, like, they're also committing to you, right? It's two ways. And so I feel like just upholding my end of that and just knowing that all the work I put in this last year especially, like, it's all going to pay off tenfold compared to what could have happened if I went somewhere else.
All right, I call this the final 5 questions. First reaction, first thought to each question, and away we go, okay?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Question number 1, Brennan Jackson. What is the best advice you've ever received?
Best advice I've ever received is from my old coach back in high school. It was, with all the success there is, you can never be complacent because it can go away, and success is not loyal to you.
Worst advice you've ever received?
YOLO. It's the worst advice I've ever received, is YOLO. That whole phrase, I think it goes away from how, at least how I view life. I think life is a gift, and I think you need to put everything into it. But I think YOLO goes for taking uncalculated risks. I don't believe in uncalculated risks. I believe everything's calculated down to a science. And I just feel like YOLO, it's too risky. Whereas for me, it's like, I want to do everything in life for a specific reason. I feel like YOLO is just doing it because you can.
I went to Twitter before this conversation, and I asked, hey, who's got some good questions for you? And your mom came up with a bunch. Question number 3 is from her, and she asked for a lot of good ones. But who has been your greatest motivator?
The person who asked the question. It's got to be my mom. She is, throughout my entire life, she has never let me ever not be motivated to do something. She's always had the perfect message at the right time. She's always told me I love you no matter what I've done. And it doesn't matter if I failed the test, if I won a football game, she loved me the same. It wasn't about that. It was about just being her numero uno. And I appreciate my mom endlessly, and I just want to give everything back to her.
The title of this show, as you know, is The It Factory. And I believe the It Factor is one of the most overused, undefinable phrases in sport. But you know it when you see it. You have an It Factor. So how would you describe it?
I would say It Factor is a relentless pursuit of greatness. I think when someone has the It Factor, it's someone who's not willing to ever stop on the path to success. No matter how far the tunnel is, no matter how little light they see, they're going to run full speed towards it, no matter what adversity they're facing. I think that's the It Factor, if I had to describe it.
From the moment you arrived on campus to now, you've been through a lot. So I'm curious how you would complete the following sentence. It all comes down to...
It all comes down to will. It's will. It's willpower. If you want to do it, you will do it. If you don't want to, you won't do it. And I think it all comes down to that. No matter what happens in life, there's going to be trials, there's going to be hardships, but it's all about how much you want to get past it, and if you will or won't you.
We are so grateful that you willed your way onto this show. And you got through it. You thrived, man. Media Training 101, A+ for you, Brennan Jackson. Thank you for the time, man. Hope you enjoyed it.
Thank you so much. This was an absolute blast, and I'm just excited to have been a part of it.
Yeah, so are we. Brennan Jackson, an elite player, but so thoughtful, and I think just shared incredible wisdom for parents, recruits, current athletes in college or the pros, and I've wanted to have him on for a long time. And trust me, on the stage, this dude thrives. I sat on the stage with him in front of a bunch of Cougs in the spring, and he's a star in many ways in his life, and I know a huge one and a bright one in Pullman. So there it is. Brennan Jackson, all-conference edge rusher, doing so many special things on and off the field in Pullman, Washington. As always, subscribe, share this bad boy, rate it. All the questions out there from Coug fans, we only got one in. It was from Mom, but I'll ask him the other ones offline. Maybe he'll respond on social media. But thanks again, as always. Much love. Peace.
Awesome. Well, enjoy the rest of your day, guys. I'm going to go take a nap.